Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, when you use promo code DNVR, new customers can make any $5 NBA moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. That's code DNVR, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Well, welcome in to a Friday Suzie show. I'm Suzie Hunter. We got super producer Kale Sorbo making it all happen. Up? We need air horns for you. Kale and I decided... Sorry to yell into your ear, America. Kale and I decided before the show started, we are committed to giving you the weirdest show possible today. I am so sleep deprived because I was in Philly this morning. And I really tore it up. I can't believe I have a voice. I can already kind of feel it going away now that I'm actually talking a lot. Because I was screaming at a sports bar last night watching the Phillies in Game 5 of the World Series. We will get more into that in a second. But yeah, we have a major problem that we need to address. And I already heard a little bit of it. My Philly accent. I worked so hard to get rid of it as a teenager. But if I spend too much time in Philly, especially at a bar with a bunch of Philly Johns, my accent comes back. I have no control over it. I can't turn it on. I can't turn it off. But I'm hearing it come back in certain words that I say. And I hate it. And it's happening. It already happened in the DraftKings ad read. It's rough.
Where in the DraftKings read was it? I didn't hear it.
When I said the word code.
Code.
I don't know how I said it. I can't turn it on. I can't turn it off. But like when it's happening, I hear it and I can't stop it.
Nice.
The last time this happened to me, like absolutely out of control in a way that was just completely off the rails. When the Phillies signed Bryce Harper, I was listening to so much Philly sports radio from up in Connecticut that on TV in Connecticut, I was saying stuff like Wednesday. Like I just like it all came back and I sounded ridiculous.
Love that for you.
I didn't love it for me. I worked so hard as a young teen to get rid of the Philly accent so I could work in media. Now look at me.
Now look at you. You're working in media with a Philly accent.
It's in damn shambles. In damn shambles. We're going to talk about shambles. I need to take a sip of this tea because, again, my voice is just totally shot from a few days in Philly, from being out and about, from being at games. It's fun. Kel, you've been watching these games, though, right?
I have been watching these games. It's the first baseball I've watched all year. That's a lie, but...
It's the most baseball maybe you've watched.
It's the most baseball I've watched all year, yeah.
It's been fun. This has been a good World Series.
It's been a great World Series. We got historic games back-to-back and then just like an absolute nail-biter, which was a great game. So
yes. Although I think my favorite moment of the game on Tuesday, Game 5, when Meek Mill came out with the Philly Fanatic and rapped. Did everyone else appreciate that as much as Philly people? Because we were screaming.
I don't think anybody really can emotionally vibe with that the same way a Philly person can.
Yeah. Yeah. You rap that song that the Phillies came out to, or the Eagles came out to at the Super Bowl. He couldn't even be at that Super Bowl because he was in jail. And now look at him.
Rapping at the World Series.
Love Meek Mill. He's our dude. We'll talk more about the World Series. But we got some Rockies news because the Grand Junction Rockies finally changed their name. And no, not to the Grand Junction Humpback Chubs, which is a very sexual name for a very endangered fish. No, they went with the Jackalopes, a big rebranding. We got a graphic. Here's what the logo looks like, the Jackalopes. Kale, what do you think?
I gotta be honest, love the name, hate the logo.
I don't really know what a jackalope is. Is that something that I should know as a person who lives in Colorado?
Yes, it is. It's a fictitious animal, which is a long hair with horns. So like
a rabbit.
A rabbit with antlers. Basically a rabbit with antlers, but a hare. Oh. Yeah, so it's a fictitious animal.
What is the difference between a hare and a rabbit?
I think one's bigger.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he looks... you know what? Well, that looks like a
It is a jackalope. I just think the logo is kind of poorly done. I think it deserved better.
You had to tell me what kind of animal it was for me to understand what I was looking at. Now that I'm looking at it, he's got the bat on some of the antlers. He looks real angry. He's got the ears. He's listening for predators because I'm assuming hares are also prey like rabbits are.
Yeah.
But a jackalope wouldn't be prey. He would be a predator because he's got big antlers.
Yeah, something like that. Am I
overthinking it?
I think you're overthinking
I'm doing Patrick's job right now, and I'm overthinking it.
But I don't know. This logo just leaves something to be desired. I think the whole baseball diamond behind it that they were trying to go for, I don't think really shines through.
No.
It just kind of looks like some weird squiggly lines. I don't think the sign really matches where the fonts are sort of off to me. And it bugs me that the sign is going in a different angle than the bat is.
It's a slightly different angle.
Yeah, so like there's just certain things like the symmetry about this like is just off. It's really it's heavy to the left when you look at the weight of the logo.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm getting like way too into design talk.
I was gonna say this sounds like something that D-Line would be saying right now.
Yeah.
I love these design notes. Thank you for filling us in. But yeah, do you remember the Humpback Chub episode?
Oh.
Or not episode, incident of 2019?
It was all the rage.
It's ridiculous. We're going to go back and relive the timeline because I feel like maybe sometimes people don't remember the full story because it was a whole thing. So I refreshed myself by reading the Purple Rose story from 2019, which just really perfectly grasped the timeline of the events. So there was a guy named Ian Loomis, and I hope I'm saying that name right, and I apologize, Ian, if I'm not. Grand Junction resident, wanted to change the name to something cool like other minor league teams have all around the country. Everyone's got cool names, and they're a little goofy. So he was like, it would be kind of goofy, but also really locally relevant, a Humpback Chub. So he started a petition. And like really, his quote in that story, I'm trying to be funny, but I'm definitely not trying to just troll the team. So like at its core, like really genuinely liked this name, but started a petition. And when it started to pick up steam, the Grand Junction Rockies blocked him. So this is back when they were also still actually affiliated with the Rockies. Now the Pioneer League does not exist in the world of minor league baseball. They're, I guess, what they call a partner league. But anyway, so he got blocked. But it still had that traction on social media. And then here's the tweet that the Grand Junction Rockies put out that June. The Grand Junction Rockies are not considering changing the name and never have. Chubs is an offensive and slang sexual term for erection. They tweeted this from their real verified account.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's like crazy. Like if you were trying to bury this is like the wrong way to do it. And it went so viral. And then they also said, there's another tweet too, right? And of course I can't even read the own thing that
The Grand Junction Rockies pride ourselves on providing fun family entertainment, and suggesting inappropriate name changes will not be tolerated. Anyone who continues to suggest the GJ Chubs in any way will be blocked from our account.
And like they did that. And like all of these tweets ended up being deleted. So like that in itself is like also such a mess. But then that kind of all faded away. The story became old news. Then the pandemic happened. I feel like this kind of just got lost in the story, lost in the shuffle. The Pioneer League ended up not being part of minor league baseball anymore. But they still were able to use the Rockies name. Even though it's trademarked, they were kind of grandfathered in. But recently, the Grand Junction team was bought by Future Legends, which also owns the Northern Colorado Owls, another Pioneer League team. So with the new ownership, the rights to the name are lost. So they actually had to change the name. So now here we are at the Jackalopes.
Go Jacks.
Go Jacks. Go J-Lopes.
J-Lopes.
Jackie Lopes.
Maybe not that one.
No? Did I say something inappropriate?
I think so.
No, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm talking about. I got no sleep. Yeah. All right. We are going to go from one Rocky to another, or one former Rocky to another. We're going to talk about Nolan Arenado. We had a great interview with Katie Wu, but first we got to talk about some sponsors. But before we do that, we got to talk about right here at home, DNVR, because it is football season. It is peak DNVR season, and we've got tailgates like no other. And we've got great deals here at the bar, too. So if you're not a member already, you are missing out on those price breaks for Broncos tailgates and Nuggets party buses. What day is the party bus? That's coming up soon.
Tomorrow.
Oh, it is tomorrow.
Yeah, our Nuggets takeover is tomorrow.
Oh, my gosh. So you know what? If you are a DNVR member, you got a discount on that. And that's like really way too good of a deal. I don't know how we do it. You're also getting that annual membership. You know, that comes with a free shirt from DNVRlocker.com. We've got the best gear in the biz. I cannot say this enough. You get a discount at the bar. You're going to get 15% off your bill. That's a crazy good deal. In this economy, nuts. You get extra raffle tickets at all of those watch parties to win that free gear too. And access to that members-only Discord where you don't have to worry about politics or jerks. You can just chat with everyone about all the sports and topics you want to talk about. And if you're not a member already, don't fret. It's only 50 cents for your first month at thednvr.com. And listen, if you love DNVR, you got to love Game Time too, because they are the hottest ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sporting events, concerts, shows, all of the above. So if you've ever dreamed of sitting in a seat that you never thought you could snag, like the 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, maybe just getting into a World Series in general, it's all possible with the Game Time app. Those big last-minute price drops can be found on the seats that you really never thought you could buy. So the bottom line is, if you love DNVR, you're going to love Game Time. It's the best way. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. So join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all of your favorite events. And you know what I like to say about the best seats? Sometimes it's right in your house. And especially if you've got Avaca TV, they are the new GOAT in Colorado sports. That is the greatest of all TV. Avaca TV delivers amped up sports coverage for Colorado fans, featuring altitude sports and AT&T Sportsnet. Get the most regional content for the lowest price for sports in Colorado. Avs, Nuggets, DU, CSU, UNC, and MSU. All those letters. All those teams. Love it. And did you know? You knew the Nuggets crew went to Serbia. You know they made a documentary. That is an Avaca TV exclusive. I know we can't gush enough about how proud we are of our colleagues, our coworkers here at DNVR. I cannot believe y'all made a documentary.
It's pretty crazy. Shout out RG and Adam. They put in so much work on it. It came out amazing, and it's really special for me because I get to relive such an amazing experience, but I think it's special for everybody who was there, and I think it's going to be special for anybody who watches it.
Yeah, it's got to be so special for, those Nuggets diehard fans too, to just really get that look into basketball in Serbia. That's so cool. So yeah, you can check that out on Avaca TV. You can watch it all. Avaca.tv/DNVR. You can sign up for just $25 a month, and you can check out all those Nuggets pregame shows, all that stuff. evoca.tv/DNVR to watch all of your favorite Colorado sports and original DNVR content. All right. We talked to Katie Wu. I talked to Katie Wu. Who's we? Who is we? No one else was there. It was just me and her. No, she's so great. She does great coverage for The Athletic. But yeah, really wanted to talk to her. I wanted to pick her brain about Nolan opting in, which is not really a term. He just did not exercise the opt-out. But that's a contract that, we are still paying for here in Colorado. So, Kale, do we got that interview? We do. Oh, let's roll it.
Well, how are you?
I am good. We got to talk about the second highest paid guy on the Rockies payroll right now, Nolan Arenado, who did not exercise that opt-out. There was so much buzz last week about whether or not he would opt out or not. Was there merit to that buzz, or was that just conversation? Was it speculation? What was actually going on out there in St. Louis?
Well, first of all, what an accurately and sad way to phrase Nolan Arenado in terms of Rockies fans. I mean, man, that trade, I know that Rockies fans are tired of hearing about it, but when you phrase it that way, it really puts into perspective what exactly went on. But no, there was a lot of buzz about Nolan Arenado, and throughout both 2021 and 2022, he was so adamant in how much he loved St. Louis and how he wanted to stay. Of course, though, when it comes time to make that final decision, Nolan was looking at locking up his next 5 years in St. Louis. So he really wanted to make sure that everyone was on the same page. And I think what kind of took a little bit longer, it didn't really take too long. I mean, he had until 5 days after the end of the World Series to make a decision. But what really, I think, factored into his final decision was making sure that him, President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak, and the future of the club were all kind of in a tandem. John Mozeliak actually flew to Nolan Arenado in Southern California early in October. They had a sit-down dinner, and they talked about everything, where the club was going, how Nolan could be better, how the club could improve, if payroll would increase, all of these things that ultimately led Nolan to just finalize his decision to stay with the Cardinals for the next 5 years.
Now, were you surprised? Did you think that this would happen? What did you predict before this, and how does that line up with what actually happened?
I didn't think Nolan was really going anywhere. I mean, he really loves playing in St. Louis. He loves his teammates. He's well respected. He really likes the city of St. Louis. So for me, it was never really a question of if he would leave. It was a question of when he would make it official that he would not be leaving. I was a little bit surprised just in the day and age of baseball and the way that contracts and free agency plays out. I mean, if Nolan really wanted to, even if he wanted to remain a Cardinal, he could have opted out of the remainder of his 5-year, $144 million contract with a verbal agreement or obligation to return to the Cardinals in terms of just restructuring the deal to get more money. The third base market for free agency this offseason is relatively thin. There are a lot of teams that could pay a lot of money, the Yankees, the Dodgers, for Nolan, and he could have used that as leverage. So to me, that was surprising that he didn't. He opted to stay with the deal and not restructure it at all. I asked him earlier in the week why he did that, and he just said he felt like it was important to hold up his end of the bargain. He says the Cardinals have always been good to him and been honest in their direction and how they treated him, and he wanted to, be the same and kind of show that he was all in with the organization as well. So that, to me, it wasn't necessarily that he didn't leave. I think that was pretty much expected. It was the way in which he did so and not restructured any of that contract.
Yeah, this is something that we've talked about on our podcast too, about how that, maybe he could have opted out to restructure that deal. And it's interesting the way that he worded it when you spoke with him, because to me, that sounds like maybe that could be a little bit of a dig at the Rockies, who did not instill that confidence in him. So is this a sign that he does have so much more confidence in the Cardinals?
I think so. I was thinking about it from a fan's perspective, and I thought that Cardinals fans could walk away pretty encouraged about the early trajectory of this Cardinals offseason. I mean, it's been no secret the Cardinals have been a very successful team in the regular season, but their postseason success has been minimal over the last 4 to 5 years. They have yet to win in the last 3 seasons out of their opening round. So, or in the postseason, I should say. So it's been it's been a lot of work and a lot of hype in the regular season just for ultimately disappointment. And I think the conversations with John Mozeliak and Nolan focused on, okay, what can we do to improve not just the regular success of the club, but make sure that this St. Louis ball club is a formidable threat in October, because that's something that the Cardinals really haven't been in years past. So I think from a fan's perspective, definitely an encouraging sign that Nolan was so encouraged by the Cardinals. I mean, Mo in his press conference in October said multiple times that the payroll will increase for this club. Cardinals had the second most attendance in baseball behind only the Dodgers last year. You can thank Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina for that. So with the amount of money that the Cardinals are projected to spend, of course, we don't know the actual real number to the dollar, but we do know it's a significant increase. Combined with the overall general regular season success for the Cardinals, I think it's a great sign for St. Louis and fans of the team to think, okay, they're going to be good for quite a while and things are going to change.
I like this. Okay, so this is going to sound like a dig from a Philly girl, but I promise it's not. It has to be so frustrating for St. Louis fans who, hear Nolan saying, "Oh, we just want to win the division," and then they get to the wild card round and they lose to a team that came in third in their division. That's got to be so frustrating for fans.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when the postseason, and I mean, credit to that Phillies team. They actually remind me so much of the 2011 Cardinals in terms of just being a team of destiny. Just an incredible October for them. But I think with the Cardinals, it was win the division was the bare minimum. That was the first checkbox for the Cardinals to look in this 2022 season, where they'd done a considerable job in scripting their storybook moments and playing consistent baseball. And I think it just goes to show with the postseason, if you come out flat, you make a mistake, teams will pounce on you. So definitely a very encouraging regular season, but a super frustrating and disappointing postseason that I think left a pretty sour taste in Nolan Arenado and the rest of the team's mouth.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see what they do this next season, and I'm excited to see all of your fun coverage out in St. Louis. Katie, thank you so much for joining the pod.
Suzie, of course, happy to do so anytime.
She's the best. I will say, during that interview, Kale was reacting, which I feel like you are speaking for the Colorado fandom, who is just like frustrated isn't even the word. It's so beyond frustrated.
Yeah, it's tough. I was just like, yeah, we know we're still paying for that deal. It's like probably the worst trade in MLB history. We're aware. We get it.
Whenever I go home, I try to explain to I was trying to explain this to my dad. It must have been over this past week. He was like, well, I don't understand. He did not understand this trade. I'm like, yeah, we don't either. We don't get it.
It doesn't make sense.
I have to say, being in Philly and watching a World Series game with a team that really no one thought would be in it, a team that made so many moves, just made so many changes even during the season, it gave me such a new perspective on the Rockies. It was really disappointing just because I'm looking at a team that did so much in terms of trades and
they went for it because they could.
They went for it. They saw the window and they went for it. And it's so sad to see that the Rockies have had those window of opportunities and have not
done nothing at the deadline. Yeah. It's really frustrating. I mean, a couple years ago they had teams with 4 all-stars and it was and solid starting pitching, and they made no moves. And you look at this Phillies team and you go, oh, they've got 3 or 4 really big bats and a couple really, really strong starters, some strength towards the back of their bullpen, and you go, man, that sounds a lot like the Rockies of a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't make any moves to really send it, and as such, never got out of that first round.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, with the Phillies, they have not been afraid to trade away their top talent to get other talent back that they can use right now. And that's something that I think that we would love to see, too.
I mean, we look at Brennan Rodgers, right, who's turned into a nice player, but what could you have gotten for Brennan Rodgers? And would Nolan Arenado have stayed? Would he have, felt like they were more on a contending team and things would have been happier here? There's just so many sliding door moments there that you look back on, and I'm getting way too into the weeds, so I'll stop talking. But
sliding door moments.
But it really makes you just go, what if? But then you go, there is no reason to go, what if? Because we know how this organization is run.
Yeah.
And it's not worth doing the what ifs because that's not what they did or what they do or what they're going to do. They don't make those moves. They're not even going to be bold enough to go into a tank cycle at any point to rebuild their roster, to try, or at least try and rebuild their roster. They're so content being in the middle, and it's so frustrating as a fan. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm angry too. I'm so angry for this fan base. Because I see what it's like when things go the other way. We're going to talk about a team that has made a big change in just a second. But first, we got to acknowledge some ad reads. We got to talk about the American Raptors, the rugby club composed of crossover athletes. They're crushing it out there with those athletes coming together for the first time, putting skills from their former sports to the test. And you don't want to miss their last home game of 2022 versus St. Mary's College at 1 p.m. on November 5th at Xfinity. I spent too much time in Philly. I'm so sorry. At Infinity Park Stadium. Gates open at 10:30 a.m. And the best thing is The best thing about hitting up a Raptors game, they are free. So head over to AmericanRaptors.com and grab your free ticket for this game, this last game of the season. But yeah, AmericanRaptors.com will be streaming all of those games on their website too, so you can check it out. But yeah, these athletes come from backgrounds in football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, soccer, track and field, and they've got these skills that let them excel at the game of rugby. And the best thing, we mentioned that they're free to hit up. You can check it out. Even better, our guy Colton Strickler has it all covered for you on the weekly DNVR Rugby podcast. So if you didn't get the ticket you wanted as an elite athlete, check out the opportunities at Infinity Park. Rugby might just be your next ride. So follow him and our DNVR Rugby account to keep up with the latest news. Learn rugby with Colton's 101 Rugby podcasts. Plus, he's got exclusive exclusive interviews with athletes and coaches, and provides betting advice on Super Rugby. All of that and more at AmericanRaptors.com. Now, a lot of things don't go your way sometimes. If you've been in a car crash that wasn't your fault, and now you have injuries, medical bills, lost income, or property damage, you have to deal with that disruption in your life. So where do you go from here? Don't assume the insurance companies are going to look out for you. Insurance companies can go to great lengths to tilt the playing field in their favor, and you need an experienced attorney on your side who has your back. Travis Legal Offices understands how hard it is to deal with the aftermath of car collisions, and they want to be in your corner fighting for what you deserve. Travis Legal Offices is a family-run law firm experienced in Colorado personal injury cases and insurance disputes. Travis Legal Offices has attorneys that have more than 35 years of experience handling personal injury cases, and those attorneys were educated locally at DU and CU law schools. So they've got plenty of experiences helping you out with that. Call Travis Legal Offices at 303-766-8766 for a free consultation on your personal injury matter. That's 303-766-8766. You can also reach out 24/7 on the web at travislegaloffices.com. There's respect, response, and results, and Travis Legal Offices keeps that motto in mind on each and every case they work on. So reach out to Travis Legal Offices today. All right. So the White Sox, the Chicago White Sox, made a move. They hired a new manager. And of course, we had to talk to our dude out in Chicago, CHGO White Sox, their own Herb Lawrence, about Pedro Grifol. I think that's how you say his. No, that is how you say his name. We had a whole thing. But yeah, Kale, we got that ready? We do. Let's roll it.
All right, joining the pod now is our friend from CHGO White Sox, Herb Lawrence. Herb, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for having me on, Suzie.
We're so excited to talk to you about your new manager, Pedro Grifol. The White Sox have a new face running the show. What do you guys know about him, and what are your first impressions out there right now?
Longtime baseball man Pedro Grifol he started his career really he got drafted by the Minnesota Twins and spent time in their organization. I think also in the minors with the New York Mets. And then he went on to a life of coaching and / farm directing. So he did that with the Seattle Mariners organization. And then most recently it was with the Kansas City Royals for the last 10 seasons. And so White Sox fans gave pause there. Like, why would Kansas City have this man in their building, see how smart he is and how much he's helped their team and their organization out? And then when it came to having him or having a manager being named, go all the way down to Tampa and get Matt Quatraro, that made no sense for White Sox fans. If you're going to pass up your own man, then why should we take a shot at him? But I said that on Twitter, and I got a couple DMs from people who are understanding baseball who love Pedro Grifol. I did not hear about him until like the beginning of October when the White Sox first did the interview with him. They sent me messages saying, no, this guy is a baseball man. You're going to love him. He knows how to communicate. One of the main things they said to me is that Salvador Perez wasn't really a great catcher. Still really not that great of a catcher, but Pedro Grifol, being a former catcher himself, taught him and learned himself how the art of framing goes, and taught Salvi Perez how to frame a little bit better, how to throw out runners a little bit better. And so his defense has improved under Grifol, and his offense has always been there. And the 50 home run season of 2021 proves that. The guy just oozes baseball. He understands the game. And more importantly, for a manager, I think he understands the psychology of man and how different players are different, and you got to treat them different. So I feel that he will come into this White Sox organization understanding that he has planned for this White Sox team to go against his Kansas City Royals for the last 10 years for pregame matchups or something like that. He has understood that the White Sox are supremely talented, but he said in his press conference, if the White Sox bring their energy, they can beat anybody on any night. But there was times that the White Sox didn't bring full energy, and that's why the Kansas City Royals the last 2 years have beaten the White Sox in the season series. 2021, the White Sox won the division, but the Kansas City Royals beat them 10-9. This year, the White Sox were 81-81. Still, the Royals 10-9 in the series. So I think Pedro Grifol is a big-time part of that, seeing and understanding how to beat a team on a particular night, and that's what he brings to the table for the White Sox, getting the players prepared for the game like they weren't before in 2022.
That's interesting that your first reaction was, well, why did they pass up on him? So now you're seeing it as more of a, oh, he got snubbed by his own organization. Let's take advantage of that. Let's get this smart baseball dude in here.
And it's very similar to what the White Sox went through, but on a different scale. They said that he was supposed to get the job after Ned Yost left, but somebody in the front office or the owner himself usurped those powers of the general manager at the time and put Mike Matheny in instead of Pedro Grifol. And we saw how the Mike Matheny years went terribly. And the White Sox, of course, Rick Hahn got his powers usurped by the owner when he hired Tony La Russa in 2020 after the 2020 season. So similar situations, and the Kansas City Royals are kind of doing similar situation to the White Sox, where they've seen how badly they've played in the last couple of years, and they don't want anything Royal associated going forward. That's why they hired a new general manager. That's why they brought in Matt Quatraro, and the new general manager and Quatraro have a relationship from previous stops. And so this is why they want to be more like the Tampa Bay Rays, and the White Sox didn't want any White Sox DNA continuing with their team, because the White Sox have a bad, flawed organization, and they wanted to see some outside perspective and get an outsider's view of what their team is, because we all know they have a bunch of talent. It just takes somebody to push them the right way. And the people who have been in the White Sox circles are not the people that have been doing it correctly. So it was both the Royals and the White Sox wanting to have a different change and go in a different direction.
Oh, it sounds like everyone's cleaning house. So the Kansas City spring cleaning has kind of benefited you guys. Now you were reaping the benefits. Now, looking back at this past season with, a manager like Tony La Russa, who's obviously much older, comes from a much different era, and seeing a team like the Phillies make a managerial change in the middle of the season and having it work out really well for them, having them make it to the World Series. Do you wish something like this happened sooner?
I do. And I'm a guy who I've been saying for years that managers don't matter that much in wins and losses. And Tony La Russa had changed my mind about that this year in 2022 because of his continuous blunders he made, not knowing the rules, not understanding you don't walk anybody, intentionally walk somebody with a 1-2 count. He did that twice this year. Team looked lifeless the whole year, not prepared, not ready to go in April. There was no oh man, these games count as much as the game September. Let's get on it. It didn't have any type of vroom, any type of verve to it, because Tony La Russa was kind of that way. He wasn't very energetic. And I'm not even talking about the age thing, the ageism, and people saying that he's falling asleep in the dugout. I'm just thinking that players, and the classic line from Remember the Titans is, attitude reflects leadership. And Tony was a leader. And if you're going to be down and sullen and mad after losses, or you're going to be down and sullen by how the game is going on, that's how the players are going to react. And so when we saw what happened in Philly, immediately they reacted. I think they won 9 in a row
Yep.
after they fired Joe Girardi. Same type of guy who's won a World Series in the past, tried to recapture something with a different team. The Phillies people's like, we spent a lot of money this offseason. We're not going to let you screw this up, Joe Girardi. You're out of here. Let's get some new blood in here, get a new voice in here. And that didn't happen for the White Sox until Tony, unfortunately, got ill and he had his pacemaker act up on him. So he had to go back to Arizona and never return. You get Miguel Cairo in there, and the White Sox immediately took off. This was in August, though. So the Cleveland Guardians were already established. The Minnesota Twins were already established ahead of the White Sox. And so it was way too late for the White Sox to actually catch up and do some things that they needed to. The urgency was gone. They didn't get it done. And, eventually when they had, I think it was only a game and a half or 2 games behind the Cleveland Guardians came in here and pretty much swept the White Sox. And then the lifeless White Sox pretty much lost all the rest of the year. So I know that if they would have fired the manager a little earlier, or if they would have actually had Tony, hey, this can't go on, man. What we're doing can't go on. The White Sox might have woke up. There would have been something to say, hey, you guys' poor play has cost this man his job, his livelihood. And so if you don't act right, somebody else will get fired because of your actions. And that's what's happened. Subsequently, the White Sox have pretty much cleaned their whole coaching staff out except for their pitching coach and their bullpen coach. And so that's mostly because this big-time team underachieved, and they've cleaned house. And Tony La Russa, he left because of health issues, but he deserved to get fired because of how badly he was managing this year. So I think that a firing in the middle of the season would have had maybe not the effect of the White Sox winning or getting into the World Series, but I think they definitely get in the playoffs. 81-81 was a reflection of how the team was managed and how the players reacted to that manager.
Yeah, there's so much talent on that team for sure. You mentioned the energy and how the energy of the team was reflective of the energy from Tony La Russa. From what I've heard from this new manager, it sounds like he's got a totally different energy for sure. The quote that I saw you guys retweeted from Parkins and Spiegel, the White Sox will work every day as hard as we possibly can to kick your ass at 7-10. That, to me, that shook me.
Oh, it reached White Sox fans. When it was said, I was listening live to the score at that time, and I was like, woo, let's go. I'm ready to go right now. And that's one of the things he said in his introductory press conference. He's like, we're going to have energy, because I saw as an outsider that the White Sox sometimes didn't give maximum energy. If the team gets maximum energy at every night, there's no team that they can't beat, because we all know the pitching staff is great when they pitch well. And Lucas Giolito had a poor year this year, but otherwise, Cease was great. We had Lance Lynn do his thing, and Michael Kopech will be going into his second full year of starting next year. So I have no qualms about the pitching staff. It's about sometimes Yohan Moncada, sometimes Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, these guys who should be all all-stars. And some have made all-star teams this year, like Tim was the starting shortstop for the American League. But from time to time, lackadaisical play, dumb play. And I think this Pedro Grifol will nip that stuff in the bud instead of letting that stuff linger and not trying to be the player's manager like Tony La Russa was so desperately trying. And I think he probably did that because of how we as the fans and the media kind of said that Tony's going to mess up the vibe when he comes into White Sox clubhouse. He didn't mess up the vibe necessarily, because they still had fun. Whatever fun they did, I thought he was going to be coming in there and changing the culture. He didn't do that. He went the opposite way, where he's too friendly, too much. Hey, I'm the player manager. I'm not gonna discipline you, except for Yermin Mercedes. If you hit a 3-0 pitch, he's gonna discipline you. Otherwise, he didn't discipline people for poor play. He didn't discipline people for not running out the ball. He didn't discipline people for misjudging easy fly balls or lackadaisical play. None of that stuff. So I think Pedro Grifol will come in here with an iron fist, but also understanding that can't run all the time. You can't just be telling grown men what to do all the time and them to listen to you. I think he has a quality balance of both kicking you in the butt and then putting an arm around your shoulder when you need to. And he needs to do that with some of these players more than not. So he needs to find out the players that need the kick in the butt a little bit more than the other players. And I think he understands that players are not the same. There's 26 different personalities in there. and he needs to manage each and every one individually.
Yeah, for sure. Lackadaisical, bringing out the good old SAT words. I love this. I know the White Sox had so many high hopes these past few seasons. Do you think Pedro is the guy who's gonna make it happen?
I think so. I mean, as a person who thinks that managers don't matter much in wins and losses, the thing is that I think he's going to get them prepared. The things that we can't see while we're watching starting at 7:10 on games is the stuff that he prepares them to do before the games. Pick the ball up. Defensively, the White Sox are one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in baseball at defense. Making sure that they show up and do batting practice correctly. You're not just up there just to run through the motions of batting practice. You're actually trying to do something that you see in the game that's going to happen tonight. Who's the pitcher tonight? What does he throw? Does he offer sliders? Cool. Let's have the batting practice guy throw you outside pitches, throw you some sliders. So maybe you can lay off them. Or if he throws them outside in the zone, you can hit them to right field if you're a right-hander. If you're a left-hander, you can have a jam shot go over to left field. These type of things, the actual practical things that help you win later in the game. So he'll have the players prepared, and that's one of the big bugaboos. And I don't know if you watched the press conference, but our general manager, Rick Hahn, when he had to introduce Tony La Russa in 2020, it was via Zoom, so that's one of the reasons. But he seemed like somebody just kicked his dog. Literally, he was so down. His face was just the saddest I've ever seen him. Fast forward to the press conference they had on Thursday for Pedro Grifol, cheesing from ear to ear. He could not be happier that it went the way it did, because you could tell that this was his guy. He picked this guy through the interviewing process, and he didn't get his power usurped this time by either Kenny Williams, the VP of baseball ops, or the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, who did that with Tony La Russa. So he was grinning because the guy is the right guy to get this team ready, because everybody knows in that organization that all these players need is health and the right mindset, and they can beat this this AL Central division by 10 games like they did in 2021. They had focus that year. They had hitting that year. They had pitching that year, and they did win that by 10 plus games. I think that in 2023, they'll have the target back on their back, but they won't care. They'll be ready and prepared to do the job that needs to be done, because they are far superior to the teams in the AL Central, even those Cleveland Guardians who won like 93 games.
All right, Herb, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see what these Chicago White Sox do in 2023. Tell us where we can follow you on social media so we can follow all of the great stuff CHGO is doing out there.
Well, you can follow me at Ecknerwall23. That's my last name, Lawrence, spelled backwards. 23 is for Robin Ventura. And I'm pretty much on all social media platforms as Ecknerwall23. And I'm sure Rockies fans can commiserate with the White Sox fans, because you guys a couple of years ago had your ownership sign a third baseman to a long-term deal, and only to trade him away the next year, and then do not similar thing, but Trevor Story walking, and weirdly sign Chris Bryant for a big-time deal. So you guys have been very, very, maligned by your ownership, and it's kind of like a confusing thing going on. That's what White Sox fans are. You guys are pretty much the National League version of us as far as the fans. Your stadium's much better than ours, and I love to go there. I love
it's a
just
little
chill
bit
there.
better, yeah, for sure.
It's awesome. So you guys, if you guys want to commiserate with the American League team, come over to the White Sox. We got the same type of uniform style too, like the old English, the pinstripes at home. Nice.
Well, listen, we know that if people who live in Denver are going to pick a Chicago team, we're sick of seeing Cubs fans, so I'm all in on White Sox. Herb, I will talk to you later. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Susie.
I love Herb. Herb is such a good baseball dude. I love it so much. Kale's over there giving snaps. I want to show you the funniest thing. Apparently, this is a thing people say on Twitter about Pedro Grifol. Pedro Grifol is Spanish for Peter Griffin. This had me actually cracking up like more than I've ever laughed today. I thought it was funny. I wanted to show a funny internet thing. Listen, we got to talk about the World Series a little bit before we wrap up for the weekend. Of course, Game 5 was last night in Philadelphia. Meek Mill came out hot. It was a nail-biter of a game, really set the tone. Justin Verlander got his first World Series win. And that rain postponement from back on Monday, he said that helped him because he got an extra bullpen session in. So that was a big accomplishment for him. And we got to see Kate Upton on TV 3 times. I saw 3. It could have been more, but I think I saw them all. Pena had a solo home run. Yuli Gurriel injured his knee during some weird base running. So because of that, Trey Mancini came in for him. And at first base, he stopped at least one run with Phillies on the corners. An insane catch at first. There's a moment where the game could have gone a different way for the Phillies. It was a 1-run game. Westchester, Pennsylvania native Chas McCormick robbed a homer from JT Realmuto, or at least robbed an extra base hit. It was an absolute nail-biter. Astros came out on top in that one. They've got the lead in the series now 3-2. We're going back to Houston. I'm not going to Houston, for the record. I'm probably going to watch the game here. Where else would I watch it? Let's be real. But yeah, it's going to be a winner-go-home situation in Game 6 in Houston on Saturday night. Not tonight. It's not happening Friday night because everything got pushed back a day because of that rain postponement on Monday. So Saturday night, 6:03 Mountain Time. Zach Wheeler gets the start for the Phillies. Ranger Suarez could appear. He appeared in relief in Game 1, and he started Game 3 on short rest. He does line up to start Game 7 if there is a Game 7. But Phillies manager Rob Thompson said that, yeah, he'll use Suarez in relief if he has to. Wheeler, obviously, it's been a concern for the Phillies. His velocity was down in Game 2, even with the extra rest. Apparently, he threw a bullpen session on Thursday. The Phillies were happy with that. But yeah, the Phillies faced Framber Valdez in Game 6, and we know how much the Phillies struggled against him. But this will be their second look at him, so we will see what happens. Listen, this has been such a great World Series. Kale's been on the edge of his seat watching this World Series.
I have been on the edge of my seat. Oh,
where did I go?
Our camera battery just died. Hold up.
Oh, no. Sue's After Dark. We're about to wrap up the show anyway, but Kale's going to turn the camera back on. This is hilarious.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's all good.
The camera's plugged in. That's not supposed to happen.
It's not supposed to happen. It's totally fine. Yeah. This is Rocks After Dark. Sue's on the rocks. There's so many different names that I want to call my Friday show. You know, I'm thinking about getting a DJ. That would be fun. This is hilarious. But yeah, this is going to be a crazy, crazy weekend of baseball. Saturday night, possibly Sunday. We'll see what happens. It's crazy when you look at ooh, she's back. I'm back on camera. If you watch us on YouTube, it's never a dull moment. But yeah, tickets in Houston are just significantly cheaper than in Philly. The prices just really never went down, even like so close to game time. It was pretty nuts to see. But yeah, let's see what happens. I feel like I should watch the game here. I really don't know. I can't be buying shots for everyone at the bar again. I need to not do that ever again. I have so many trips coming up, and I would like to actually take them. But we got the Friday afternoon club tonight.
And there's some Australians here.
There are Australians here. While one of those interviews was rolling, 2 Australians came up. They're huge Nuggets fans. They wanted to visit the bar. They're huge fans of the Nuggets pod. I don't think they know about the Colorado Rockies.
But that's okay.
They found out. It was adorable. So I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna buy them a couple of beers because they seem like fun people. Kale, what are you gonna drink at the Friday afternoon club?
I'm gonna get myself a Fun Slinger.
A Fun Slinger.
A Fun Slinger lager.
A Fun Slinger lager. I'm gonna have a honeydew seltzy because I haven't had one all week, Kale. I have not had one.
Seltzy time.
It's seltzy time. I've been drinking Yinglings all week. I need something different. I'm all beer bloated from an East Coast beer. I miss my Breck brews.
I've never had a Yingling. I need to try that.
They're good. They're good. If you like Breck brew, maybe you'll like Yingling.
Maybe.
Maybe. But I love my Breck brews. And I love that you joined me for this pod, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Kale, where can the people follow you on social media?
I'm at Kale Sorbo, Kale with 2 L's.
2 L's. And you can follow us at the DNVR Rockies Twitter account at DNVR_Rockies. You can follow me at the Suzie Hunter on all platforms. And you know what we say about closing a show, Kale?
What do they say, Susie?
I don't know how to, so I'm just going to say goodbye, and we will talk to you on Monday.